Hey guys, what's up? So in this video we're going to be covering the second half SOS guild boss for P5X Global version 1.4. And this is the team we're going to be running. Vino will be going first, Wonder second, Leon third, and Queen 4. And if your speed tuning is not exactly like mine, it's probably okay as long as Queen goes last and Vino preferably goes first. Wonder and Leo can be flipped. Ideally you want it like this, but if these two are flipped, that's not a huge deal. And then we're going to be using Okeon as our navigator. I did try to run Phoebe in this team, but for whatever reason, I think just because Okeon does occasionally apply an elemental ailment, it just helps this team out a lot. I was consistently getting a higher score with Okeon. So if you don't have Phoebe, disregard, and you'll probably end up just using Puppet on the other side. But I think Okeon is the best Navi for this, regardless. As for Wonder where you're using the Arc Knife, if you don't have the Arc Knife, Send Knight Inferno Dagger should be fine. And Personas, Dionysus, Bishamonten, and Yanosik. If you don't have Bishamonten yet, and you didn't get him with the coins, I would just go ahead and use Jikokuten here instead. As for skills on the Personas, as always, we need Rebellion on Dionysus. If you have Bishamonten, you're going to want to use put Rakunda on him. And then on Yanosik, we're going to want Rakunda as well. And if you don't have Bishamonten, I do suggest bringing Jikokuten instead of Bishamonten, and just make sure you have Tarukaja on him. As for what card sets we're going to be running here, I'll put them up on the screen, but in turn order, it is Vino is running Departure and Control, Leon is running Trust and Prosperity, Queen is running Awareness and Truth, and Okeon is running Trust and Power. Do note that one of your units, preferably Leon or Okeon, is going to need Prosperity on them to follow the highlight rotation we're going to use here. And I don't really have any other notes to go over before we hop into the fight. But I will say, there's a couple of things as I'll go over as we get, to the point in the fight where the decision needs to be made either way. But there are going to be a couple opportunities here for Queen to get inflicted with freeze. And if she gets inflicted with freeze, she gets a minus 12% attack for 2 turns. So if you're going for like peak optimal score here, you may end up doing a lot of resetting. I'll probably reset just on my end. You'll only see the one run, obviously, but I'll reset until she doesn't get frozen on the first turn. I will not reset for the second kind of chance for her to get frozen, or she has 3 chances technically if the boss targets her with his single target, but he's guaranteed to use 2 AoE moves. So just keep that in mind. If you are min-maxing, there could be a lot of resetting that's going to happen here in this fight. But if not, and you don't really care, yeah, it should be the same rotation either way. And yes, my Queen is A1, but we're going to be following the kind of A0 rotation. We're going to have Crash Out on turn 1. A0, you would not have Crash Out turn 1, but we're not going to be using it. So if you're A0, you can follow the same rotation. All right, so let's hop into it here. And we're going to start with skill 1 on the boss from Vino. If you really want it to be kind of crazy, you could restart right there until the boss gets Windswept from Vino's skill 1. Because Vino just applies like a random elemental ailment, so you could get Windswept here, and he'd get like the defense shred from that. I'm not going to do that, but if you really feel like doing that to try and min-max as much as possible on these first couple of turns, feel free to do so. And then we're going to go ahead and use Rebellion on Queen. Leo is going to use Justice Barrier on Queen. And then, like I mentioned, we are A1, so we'll be able to crash out on turn 1. If you're A0, it doesn't matter because we're not crashing out anyway. We're just going to be using her skill 1 with no crash out because we want to apply a bunch of these ailments, and I don't want to waste a turn of her crash out on it. Plus, we shred a bunch of these, what are they, Azure Scale stacks. And right there, you see, we got really lucky. He implied freeze to everyone except Queen. If Queen gets frozen there, like I said, feel free to reset on that. When I was testing it with kind of what kind of damage my team is doing, I was getting like anywhere from like 200 to 300 score difference after Queen's kind of first turn of crash out. If you get frozen kind of every opportunity, Queen is probably going to do like, for my team, would do like 500k less score-wise. Plus whatever other like random variables you run into throughout these fights with just like damage rolls and what ailments are applied at what times. So, but yeah, long story short, if you feel like resetting, go ahead. If not, it's not like the end of the world. So, alright, so Okion is up now. We're going to go ahead and use her skill 3 on Queen. And then we're not going to highlight right away. I found that if you go ahead and you use Vino's skill 3 here and then highlight with Queen, you end up getting like a nice little bump in damage, and it didn't seem to mess up my rotation of highlights throughout the rest of the fight, so I think it's probably worth it. Could be wrong though. And then with Wonder, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch to Bishamonten and use Rakunda on the boss. Like I said, if you don't have Bishamonten, I would probably swap to Jikokuten there instead and use Tarukaja on Queen. And then Leo's going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. And now we're going to Crash Out. Everyone should have Crash Out regardless of awareness at this point. So, and then we're going to go skill 3 on the boss. Alright, now Vino is back to skill 1. Wonder is going to switch back to Dionysus and use Revolution this time on Queen. Leo, back to Justice Barrier on Queen. And now we are going to go ahead and use Vino's highlight on the boss. And then we're going to go ahead and use Queen's skill 3 on the boss. And okay, so now here's the second of the 3 chances you could have to get frozen. This is not the end of the world, because unless she gets inflicted with freeze again on his next AoE, we'll at least have the last turn without freeze. But if you were trying to min-max this like as hard as possible, you'd probably reset right here. Alright, so Okion is up again. We're actually going to use her skill 3 again, because this is the only way I could get it, where I could stack the skill 3 and skill 1 on the last turn, when Queen's going to highlight and use her skill 3 Crash Out again. So go ahead and use skill 3 there. And then Vino is actually going to go ahead and use Diving Ray instead of Bullseye Bomber. We just want to make sure that he's got as many elements as possible for when Vino uses Bomber next turn, because I think a bunch of these are going to fall off after this turn. So yeah, he should at least have these 2, and then hopefully you'll see in a second we'll reapply a bunch of these. Now we are going to go ahead and use Rebellion on Queen again. This should cover her through the rest of the fight on Rebellion. Leo is going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. And then Queen is going to go ahead and use... I'm going to use skill 1. If one of your units is like critically low and you don't think they'll be able to survive another hit, you can use President's Prowess if you want to. You won't have as many ailments for Vino to apply her damage shred, or her defense shred and her damage up, which uses her skill 3 next turn. Not the end of the world again. Like I said, you want your units surviving is more important. So let's go ahead and use her skill 1. And now we should be in pretty good shape on these ailments for the rest of the fight. So, alright, so we got lucky and we didn't get the second freeze here. So Queen should be able to be doing max damage on this last turn. She will lose the 12% attack on her first Crash Out turn coming up here, but it's better than getting the double freeze. So Vino's going to go ahead and use skill 3 now. Four ailments, so Vino gets like her max. And then we are going to go ahead and use Wondrous Highlight on Queen. On Dionysus, you should be on Dionysus. If not, just switch to Dionysus there and then use the highlight. And then we're going to go ahead and switch to Yanosik and use Rakunda. And you've probably heard me mention this before, but we use Rakunda on Yanosik because he'll apply Mark as well. It gives you the extra like 40% almost defense down. Leo's going to go ahead and use Justice Barrier on Queen. Queen is now going to crash out again. And we're going to go ahead and use her skill 3. Alright, now we can go ahead and use Okion's skill 1. Stack that skill 3 and skill 1 from Okion for this final turn. Vino, skill 1 on the boss. Wonder, switch to Bishamonten, and use Imperial Purge. If you, like I said, if you don't have Bishamonten, then I would probably just switch to Dionysus and use Revolution on Queen. But we're going to go ahead and use Imperial Purge here. Leo is going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. And then we should just get Queen's Highlight back. We'll go ahead and use that. And then we'll go ahead and finish it up with Queen's skill 3. Alright, 6.9 it looks like. So, not a record. I did break 7. But in the run I broke 7, I didn't get inflicted with the freeze on that at all throughout that fight. So, yeah, so it was like a 100k difference between, I think, my best score and this score, which, I don't know if that's just the freeze. Like I said, it could be a couple of damage rolls here and there, or windswept getting applied, you know, fortuitously throughout the fight. So, yeah, but I think this is a pretty solid score. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are able to take something useful away from that. Hopefully in the next day or so, I will be able to get a video out for the boss on side 1. I kind of had like a loose rotation for this side 2 boss from the last set of bosses. It's kind of the same, except we have Bishamonten available now, and it's a little bit different, but because of the his kind of special effect here. I think they want you to use Phoebe here, but like I said, I found Okion to be more useful. I'm actually using Phoebe on this side, so sneak preview of the team I'm using here. But if you don't have Phoebe, we'll probably be using Puppet. I'll cover this kind of as we get to the next one. But yeah, hopefully you guys got something useful out of this. Hopefully it helps you up your scores a little bit here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.